Hey everyone, it's time for a book review. So for those of you who are new to my channel, I'm author ER Reading, and I sometimes do book reviews or a little bit of bookish content, but mostly I do author tips and tricks and things like that, so please do subscribe. So today we're talking about Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief, Book 1. And I had some thoughts on this book, and I'm going to try and say them as concisely as I can manage. Alright, so this book was interesting. I will give it that. I'm going to talk about some of the points I really enjoyed, and some of the things that I think have definitely been a little bit overhyped, but we're just going to dive into it right now. Starting off strong is the beginning. We have this sassy, middle grade age boy that is just telling you, if you think you're a half-blood, to not read this book, to just close it and never think about it again, and he's breaking the fourth wall, and it's really cool. I thought it was a really interesting hook, and I was really intrigued. And even all the way through to the point where he gets to Camp Half-Blood, I thought was really interesting. From there on, it kind of had its down moments, but I did go into this book already knowing quite a bit of information, which kind of ruined some of the effects for me, and I sometimes struggle with middle grade. So I tried my best to understand this book and understand where the author was coming from. I thought the main character was really interesting. I'm dyslexic. If you've read this book, you know that Percy is sort of dyslexic. It's kind of a half-blood thing, and that he's also got ADHD. But I'm dyslexic, and I do understand some of the things that they were talking about, and it's really interesting to see. And when I was first reading it, I was like, oh yeah, this is actually quite easy to read as a dyslexic. Black and white is not a good thing for our brains. It exhausts them. Reading takes a lot longer generally, not always, but it can. And so it was really interesting to read that, and I really enjoyed his friendship with Grover and with his teacher, and kind of going into his family life. I thought his mother was amazing. I think anyone who's read the book will agree with me. And I thought it was really interesting all the way up until we got to Camp Half-Blood. I think this is majority due to the fact that I already knew most of the stuff that happened in this book. I'd already seen so much on the internet, watched the movies. I know those aren't accurate, but I kind of knew what was going on, and so it wasn't quite as interesting to me after that point. And my next favorite moment actually happens, this is a spoiler, but when they're in the underworld with Hades, and I loved Hades' character just so much. It was just golden. The banter and the slyness and the downworlder that he is. I love Hades as a character just in general. Usually he's usually very sassy, usually very done with life, usually over the Olympians. He's like, I don't even, like, why? So I really appreciate his character usually, and that was one of the highlights for me. I actually really enjoyed reading his perspective, and I hope that eventually we'll get to read him again. I'm not sure if we will, but I think we probably will be. So that was my next highlight part that I really enjoyed, and the ending did surprise me only a little bit. This is a spoiler too, but when Annabeth goes away, and I kind of already knew in the end chapter that he was going to decide not to stay at Camp Half-Blood year-round, which is kind of a stupid decision on his part, but we'll probably see that play out in book 2. Alright, so my overall review of this book is, I do like it mostly. I'm going to go over the negatives now. I will leave timestamps so you can skip around if you don't want to hear the negatives, but I did have some. So my first one is that it was a little bit predictable for me, and this might have just been because I had heard more about it from other resources out in the world, or it's just because I like foresight and I'm generally pretty good at predicting things. I didn't like that. I thought the traveling was a little bit staggered. I don't know, pacing wise. He probably gets better at it as he writes, as most authors do. I give them grace a little bit, obviously, as an author myself, I understand. And then the third thing that I wanted to mention was the villains. And this is both a good and a bad compliment, negative thing. His villains are really creepy. And I don't know if this is just because of his previous writing works that he had done, because he was into adult fiction before he wrote this middle grade novel. So his villains come off very creepy. And I'm not a huge fan of creepy villains. Like I said, I really appreciated Hades, but he's not necessarily creepy, he's just very powerful, very sarcastic, those kinds of things. A creepy villain to me doesn't generally make me want to pick up the book, but he did it very well, so it's a compliment and a dislike, but that's just personal preference of mine. I don't generally like very creepy villains, but a lot of people do. So if you're looking for a creepy villain, there are quite a few in this book. Now, that's all that said, I don't think I'll be reading the second book soon. I'm gonna go on some YA binging for a little bit so that I can cleanse my middle grade palette, get ready for some more, because I do have some future middle grade on my TBR, but my next book is Blue Lily Lily Blue, which is the third book in the Raven Cycle series. One of my favorite series that I've read so far, ever. It's just amazing, and I could rave about it all day. So when I finish that series or that book, I'll put another book review on here, but that said, this book was great. I really appreciated lots of moments in it, and I think that anyone who's into middle grade or hasn't read it yet should read it. It's a great read, and there's lots to gain from it. It's interesting, and some of the character dynamics are fun, so I would definitely recommend this, even though it's not my top read of the year, but that's just personal preference, I think. Most people enjoy this way more than I did, but that's just personal opinion. Thank you so much for watching this book review. Please do leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've ever read Percy Jackson, what your opinion is on it, and I will be down in the comments with you. And I will see you guys very soon with another video. Bye!